Welcome back. This is day 2 of Stop Winging It, Unlock the Blueprint for Guaranteed Real Estate Success. We're going to pick up where we left off yesterday, and Julie Harris, I believe it was point number 5.
That's right.
You know what, though? This is kind of a Tim point.
I know. I'm going to toss it over to you after I intro it.
Okay.
All right. Now, before we do that, since there are a lot of notes to this 2-part podcast series, how can they get the notes?
Yes, that's true. Might even be a 3-part.
Good.
Right. So go to harrisrealestatedaily.com. harrisrealestatedaily.com is our exclusive newsletter for podcast listeners or viewers if you're over on YouTube. And it's where all of our notes from all the podcasts live. These are notes that are designed to educate you, motivate you, get you into action. And the action might just be you learning, or it could be you using these posts for these notes for social, or educating your agents or your team members, or all the different things. So do get our notes, and they're available for you for free at harrisrealestatedaily.com. Julie and I usually go over about 75% of our notes. But Julie, being Julie, is always going to give you an amazing drill down. So make sure you get those notes over on harrisrealestatedaily.com. And the newsletter is free. You just have to drop in your email and then confirm that you want the newsletter, and you're off to the races. So Julie, that is where all the notes are. And let's talk about point number 5.
Point number 5 is master the spokes in the wheel lead generation model. Now, this is one of the most important things that we teach in Premier Coaching as well as in our one-on-one elite coaching. Tim, what do you mean by spokes in the wheel lead generation model?
Okay, so again, we've done a lot of podcasts about this, and a lot of people say when they're saying what they like best about our coaching, is this one of the things that really, I think, clears their mind about lead generation. So here it is. First of all, let's start with the analogy. You have a bicycle wheel. The bicycle wheel is at the front of your bike. It's an old-fashioned bicycle wheel with lots and lots and lots of spokes, okay? Remember what those bikes looked like before everything was carbon fiber? All right, so those bicycle spokes, the bicycle wheels with the most spokes, have a tendency to be the strongest of all the wheels, because obviously more spokes makes the wheel have more structural integrity. Now, what happens is now what I want you to do, now you have the visualization of the wheel, is I want you to draw, you can do this mentally if you're driving, don't worry about, draw a circle in your mind, and then the center of the circle, I want you to draw a small circle. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a wheel. And remember the spokey wheel analogy that I just gave you. So I want you to draw 5 to 7 spokes on that wheel, connecting the inner circle, the hub, to the outer circle, which is the wheel. You guys got it? So draw 5 to 7 spokes. Now, those spokes represent a source of business. Now, by the way, this analogy also carries through with finances and wealth building, but just for the sake of lead generation. Each of those spokes represents a source of the business, and the ideal real estate business is going to have 5 to 7 spokes, 5 to 7 sources of business that are not interdependent on each other. Why? Because let's imagine that you only have one spoke on your wheel, and you're rolling down the street, and you hit a little pebble in the road, and that spoke on the wheel, because you only have one of them, collapses the wheel. The wheel does not have enough structural integrity to withstand even the smallest little, undulation on the road in the form of a pebble. That's how most agents' businesses are. By the way, again, that's how most agents are with regards to their finances as well. They don't have multiple sources of income. We talked about eXp Realty yesterday. Those of you who are in part of our eXp Realty family, I want you to think about this, knowing that you can create multiple sources of income in eXp. So if one spoke, a source of income isn't working, the other spokes will pick it up. That is really carries through also to your health and wealth building. But again, leading back into lead generation, I want you to realize what an expansive idea this is. And once you get it, it can change your life. So one spoke, pebble in the road, wheel collapses, no integrity. That is what happens a lot of time with agents who are, for example, just overly dependent on buying leads. That's the big one nowadays. Agents have just been buying buyer leads forever. How about agents that are only centers of influence and past clients? That's a lot of agents. That's all they do, centers of influence and past clients. I had an agent, a really amazing lady that came to us, it's probably about 10 years ago, and she was only prospecting based. She would call expireds and for sale by owners, but she got laryngitis. She didn't listen to the doctor telling her not to use her voice, of course. And then she, guess what, lost her voice, and she couldn't talk for she basically, I talked to her on the coaching call where she was asking me for direction on how to build her spokes in the wheel as she was recovering it. And she was hard to listen to because her voice was so gravelly. You guys get it? So her only spoke was proactive lead generation, which was not enough for her to withstand the smallest of the pebble in the road in the form of laryngitis. You guys get it?
I had a coaching client once that came to me and had a very steady stream of nonstop relocation.
Yep.
Her brokerage had a I think it was USAA or something that her broker had established years ago, And she was used to doing 50 plus transactions per year, but she was literally 100% dependent. She didn't know how to do anything else. And guess what? You know what I was going to say? The broker lost that relationship. Thus, she lost her lead flow. All of these examples are one-spoke wonders is kind of the loving nickname that we give them. It could be anything. I remember after the housing crash, REO agents were one-spoke wonders. The market recovered. There weren't any REOs to go after anymore. They had forgotten how to do listing presentations to a, quote, normal person.
Buying leads is that is your primary thing. That you're going to have all kinds of issues with that. You know, if, for example, you're buying leads right now from ABC lead generation company, right? What if they go out of business? What if they decide to change their algorithm or whatever, you know, mumbo jumbo they throw at you, and all of a sudden the leads basically stop being any good? That happens all the time.
That's why you need multiple spokes in your lead generation wheel. Let's say you woke up the next morning and your online lead generation buying lead source changed all the rules on you. The quality stinks, the cost went up, and you're not transacting off of that anymore. But it was the only thing you did. You'd be a one-spoke wonder. What if instead you woke up the next day, and because you had learned to be more proactive in different ways, maybe you have a really kick-ass open house system, and that's a secondary spoke.
We have someone in our EXP family that I had on our podcast recently, and he had his CRM, his whole database, with a company that basically within 24 hours went out of business and didn't warn anybody. He lost access to his data.
That's terrible.
And most agents would be paralyzed by that. But he was primarily focused on for sale by owners. And as a result of that, he didn't really care because he knows he could go out and generate more business from his FSBOs. And he also knows that most of his business came from FSBOs, right? Now, why are we telling you all this? Because your goal is to have 5 to 7 spokes. Kevin, by the way, is who I'm talking about. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
That's a great interview.
Yep. So 5 to 7 spokes at all times. And each of these spokes have to be independent of each other. So what does that mean? Calling expireds is a spoke. Calling for sale by owners is a spoke. But both those require your voice. So now you're going to want to probably integrate something that doesn't necessarily. So open houses, I know you have to talk, but you guys get the point. So maybe in your marketplace, there's not a lot of expireds or for sale by owners, but it's going to be a great place to hold open houses. You got to create your own primary spokes and on your wheel. And what we'll suggest, and what we help you do this in coaching, is identify the ones that will work the most effectively in your marketplace, that are the most appropriate for, frankly, your skill set and your mindset and your personality. Because not everyone's going to be a perfect fit for doing, proactive lead generation like Kevin does. Kevin Yoder.
Not everybody's wheel is going to have the same exact kind of spokes, right?
Maybe you are really kick-ass at centers of influence and past clients. But what we're going to do is we're going to help you expand that. So maybe all your centers of influence and past clients come from, being a coach on your daughter's, volleyball team. Well, guess what? The daughter's going to college now, and they're going to be going to the volleyball games, and you're now out of your lead generation source. Those types of things. So when you're building your spokes on the wheel, build the spokes that make the most sense for you, for your market, and do the ones that don't cost anything, right? Put spokes in your wheel. They're not going to be marketing, advertising based, because those things are the least likely to work for over the long term, and it will always cost you the most. And why is that? Because everybody can do it. When everyone gets into real estate, everyone gets into anything in life, they always look for the easy button. They always look for the shortcut. They always look for the thing that's going to mean that they don't actually have to put themselves, air quoting here, in harm's way and have actual conversations that might result in a seller saying no to them or a buyer saying no to them. All this marketing and advertising is sold to agents that don't have the scripts and the skill set and the mindset to know that on the other side of no is really everything that you want in life. And unless you move past that, you're always going to be beholden to buying business. You're always going to be beholden to some snake oil salesman that's trying to, sell you the easy button. You all intuitively know that's true, right? If you wanted to be good at sports when you were a kid, was there a shortcut to doing it, or did you have to go out there and practice your ass off? Our little daughter's, what's her score right now? Her grades, 97 point. What would you tell me today?
Her lowest score is 97.5, averaging for, what are we in, the school year, about a month and a half?
Yeah, I mean.
She's doing great.
Zoe doesn't know it, but every night she's been doing the optional homework.
Well,
we just tell her it's homework.
I'm overcorrecting.
But that's right. But guess what's happening? She's almost like, basically that's an A+, isn't it? And so she's not getting those grades without ever having done the work.
She can't wing it and do that.
Right. She has to actually practice. But you all know that because you have kids, or you were a kid at one point, right? Now, what happens to us when we start to become adults? We just think all of a sudden that, that doesn't apply anymore, that we can shortcut it, that we all of a sudden don't actually have to earn what we want in life. Somehow we could just shortcut the success.
Wing it.
Has that ever worked? So don't wing it. I mean, that's the thing. So when you're building your spokes in the wheel, take all these things into account, and please follow our advice and plan accordingly. Because really, when you have multiple spokes that are not independent, are not dependent on each other, you are going to make a fortune. Because when one spoke stops working, the others might work. So just finishing up the analogy. So you have 5 or 7 spokes on your wheel. Okay, now your wheel's rolling down the road. And let's say one's centers of influence, one's open houses, one's FSBOs, one's expired listings, one's notice of default, one whatever's appropriate to you. And let's say one of those things stops working for whatever reason. You lose that relationship with Relo, or something happens, right? It doesn't matter. You have enough other sources of business that you're rock solid. You have no worries. You don't even really feel the fact that those other sources of business stopped working. You guys get it? Conceptually, intuitively, doesn't that just make sense? So if you don't have your spokes in the wheel, what you need to be learning how to do is actually what spokes are appropriate to you, in what order. And almost always we're going to tell you to do centers of influence and past clients first. And then after that, we're going to ask you to pick for sale by owners or expireds or one of the other proactive lead generation sources. Yes, we're going to ask you to do the real work of real estate. You need to learn how to. Guess what? We've made it easy for you. Join Premier Coaching for free for 30 days. Go to premiercoaching.com or text the word Premier to 47372. Go to premiercoaching.com or text the word Premier to 47372. And Julie, you spell Premier how?
Premier.
That's right. That is going to be your homework for today's podcast. Julie, let's get to point number 6.
All right, point number 6, commit to profitability. Now, you didn't hear that in real estate school, did you? But you must do it. Commit to profitability. Stay laser focused on profitability by avoiding the 3 biggest pitfalls, which we could have individual podcasts for each one of these: buying leads, building a brand, and building a team. You don't have to do any of those 3 things. Don't fall into the trap of spending without tracking your returns.
Julia just gave you the 3 B's of real estate, but there's actually 5: buying leads, building a brand, building a team, believing in the bullshit. That's basically
That's 4, but
that's
yeah.
4. No, I had another one. I just thought of it, but now I forgot.
It'll come out, I'm
that's
sure.
4. Because again, anybody that calls you or solicits you, any video that you watch, anything that you read that is trying to let you believe that you don't have to do honest to God real work and mastering the art and science of selling real estate. In other words, learning to be of value to others to the point where they actually want to do business to you. Anybody that's trying to tell you to, listen, you don't need to. Here's what we're going to do, Julie. We're going to build a branding and marketing campaign for you. Mm-hmm. You're going to be a social media influencer. We're going to take all these great pictures. We're going to constantly you're going to build 20,000 to 100,000 Instagram followers. You're going to get all these awards from YouTube. You're going to be all this. And you guys are doing that. Why? Not because it leads to real estate transactions, because you believe that it's going to make you appear to strangers and to people you know that you're successful. They know better because they see you have no listings. They don't see your sign in the yards anywhere. They know that you're trying to fool them, that you're influential, that you're trying to buy your influence to get them to believe that you're actually successful. Why are you going through that whole learning and spending process? Why instead don't you just go out and take some listings like we beg for you to do every single day? If you have one listing, let alone several listings, if you start taking 2 listings per month, for example, and we teach you how to do that in Premier Coaching, that is how you build a brand. You build a brand as an agent who lists homes, gets them sold, delivers value to the sellers and the buyers in the marketplace, and that's what's going to get the neighbors calling you.
Lather, rinse, repeat.
Exactly. Yeah. Not a big social media following. Now, if you want to have social media anyway, I mean, Julie and I have social media, but we don't expect it to deliver anything other than this is how we communicate with you guys on this podcast, right? It's not social media, but we reinforce it with social media. So if you're hunting expireds or trying to become a proactive listing agent and going after listing opportunities in your marketplace, the social media is there to enhance it. So for example, you're going to call an expired, and let's say those people happen to know about your Instagram posts or whatever it is. That will reinforce you being a proactive lead generator. You guys get it? Hello, Mr. Seller. You're using our script. You call, you set the appointment. They then research you. They find out that you're doing a lot of social media in the community. You're somebody that they feel comfortable in. They have a level of comfort with you by the time you arrive at their door. That does give you a little bit of advantage over the seller that has no social media. That is true. But you have no advantage with all the social media in the world if you don't actually have a track record for having sold homes. You guys get it? You are believing all the marketing, the advertising, and the brand building is going to make it so the world perceives you as being something you're not. Branding as a word has been, people are trying to replace the word building a reputation with, the words building a reputation with building a brand. Get back to working on building a reputation through being successful, helping other people buy and sell real estate. And if you have a choice between being a proactive lead generator, doing the kind of work we primarily focus you guys on, and doing the passive stuff, you always do the proactive because it's going to help you to put you in a position to help people and make money. And the passive stuff will reinforce it. But if you have a choice, only do the proactive because the proactive is going to get you results.
It also builds your skills, and the other thing doesn't.
Totally. Isn't that obvious, guys? That should be really obvious to every single person listening. What I'm saying is true. So in real estate, unlike a lot of other things, your brand is the success you get for other people. It's the success you get from the sold signs or from having sold a house to a buyer and they're bragging about you. Follow our coaching. Follow what you already intuitively know to be true. Do the real work of real estate. Learn to do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. That is what it takes to have ever-increasing long-term levels of success in your business and personal life. Julie?
Point number 7, pay yourself first. Make it a habit. 10% for savings, 20% for taxes, adjust a little bit depending on your state and your situation, and the remainder for business expenses. Never mix your accounts and stay ahead of your taxes to avoid unnecessary financial stress. I can name maybe 1, possibly 2 coaching clients ever in thousands of relationships who have had any level of savings that was significant without doing it one check at a time, 10% towards savings. Some of my coaching clients are saving more like 30 or 40% per check and keeping on top of your taxes.
But you can't do that if you're buying your business. You can only
It's impossible. You don't have it left.
You don't have it left. If you're spending, 30% or 40% on a referral fee plus all your other expenses, there's not enough profit there for you to save anything.
Nope.
So if you're finding yourself not saving money, it's probably because you're spending too much money starting at the top with your broker, with the referral fees, with all these other things you're doing because you think you're supposed to, because everyone else you talk to does it. Guys, that's not the only way to build a business, and it's not the most profitable way to build a business. Look, we have had hundreds, if not thousands, of agents come to us that were focused primarily on passive lead generation, but they had been doing it for a number of years and realized they had nothing to show for all the money that they earned. They did hustle a lot of houses. They did generate a lot of volume, but they had no net worth. And then they finally discover our podcast or they read our book, Harris Rules, and all of a sudden the light goes off.
Pay yourself first is this point, right? Okay. Number 8 is a cautionary tale. It's a simple one. Be wary of fake coaches. Avoid I'm tongue-tied. Avoid advice from unqualified sources like free YouTube channels, Facebook polls, or salespeople pushing products. Coaching agents on these Facebook pages that clearly have no expertise. They just don't have the experience or the expertise to guide your real estate journey.
Okay, Julie's teeing me up for something, so make sure you guys are strapped in. There's 4 filters you use when you're hiring anybody to give you any kind of advice of any kind. Number 1, and I'm going to use real estate coaches. When you're interviewing real estate coaches, the first question you should ask, I'm going to go through these quick, but write these down. Real estate coaches, air quoting, hate me for saying this, but it's true. Number 1, if they have not had a real estate license, they do not qualify to be a real estate coach, full stop. Someone shows up in your life and they says they're a real estate coach and you ask them where they sold real estate. If they did not sell real estate, they are not a real estate coach. They are a marketer trying to sell you something.
And no, not all sales are the same.
all the
That's
things.
what they say when they hear
all
that.
the things. Yeah. Number 2, if they were a real estate coach, or if they did have a real estate license rather, then move on to question number 2. Have they sold over 100 homes in 1 year ever? So yes, I have a real estate license in Omaha, Nebraska. Great. So did you sell 100 homes in a year? No. Okay, how many homes did you sell in your best year ever? I don't remember. That'd be none. Okay, so have you had a real estate license is number 1. Number 2, have you sold over 100 homes in 1 year? Why are we asking you to set the bar that high? Because chances are you're going to now be at least have a shot at getting some advice from someone that knows what the hell they're doing, right? Now, third question. Have you sold, Mr. Prospective Real Estate Coach? You've got a license. You sold over 100 homes in 1 year. Did you sell over 100 homes for 5 years in a row? Okay. Now, why is that important? Because someone could have sold 100 homes in a year And they could have done it from having listed some farmland that got subdivided and each of the lots got sold individually to a builder. They could have listed a big building in Miami and they all of a sudden had all these sales that happened as a result of that one opportunity. That's the reason that you need to ask the drill down questions. Do those people have something to offer? Probably. But should you be demanding more from who you listen to for your advice? Hell yeah, you should. Number one, have you had a license? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, move to question 2. Have you sold over 100 homes in a year? If the answer is yes, move to question 3. Did you sell over 100 homes in a year for at least 5 years in a row? And if they did not, you need to give yourself permission to say, thank you very much, you're not for me, I can do better. Because the 4th question is what takes nearly all the air quoting real estate coaches out, especially the ones on social media. Okay? Have you actually conducted over 100,000 paid one-on-one coaching calls? Now, when you ask that question, here's what you're going to hear. And I know this is what they're going to tell you because people who interview our coaches will often have used those 4 questions and interviewed other coaches and found out the truth. The answer is virtually none of them have. In the industry, Julie and I and a handful of others, maybe 2 or 3 other real estate coaches, are the only ones that have performed at that level for that long period of time. Because you had to have been on the front lines coaching agents for a long damn time to have done that many coaching calls. And we have. And by the way, I said paid. And I also said it can, and well, just if I'm not clear, it's not doing a speaking event where there were 1,000 people in the audience. It's not doing a bunch of YouTube videos where you had a bunch of views, which you can buy. It's not doing anything else other than having a one-on-one call with a real estate agent about helping them in their business. If you've not done, if that prospective coach has not performed at that level, you can do better. If you don't, you're going to essentially doom yourself for getting half-assed, most likely, advice that's going to lead you to a direction you might not want to go. And I would also, frankly, dig in and find out what their prescribed lead generation ideas are. Well, center of influence and past client, you hear that a lot. Or social media, okay, you hear that a lot. Well, okay, what if that's not for you? That real estate coach doesn't know how to do anything else. You guys getting the point here? Be very particular who you listen to. And yes, of course, Julie and I check the boxes for all 5 of those or 4 of those questions, as do our coaches. Be demanding. Avoid fake coaches. Julie, let's roll on to the next point, point number 9. Keep your online profiles professional.
Don't mix personal opinions or complaints with your professional persona. Have a dedicated business page, but avoid paying for website optimization, because that's hard to quantify how that's working and how much you should be paying and what they're really doing for you. Your social media supports your business. It is not a lead generator by itself. It is not a standalone spoke.
Well, so with regards to your profiles, I think what Julie was meaning to say, where did you even have anything about there on SEO? I don't even see that. Oh, so
Website optimization.
Yeah,
because they pay thousands of dollars.
All right. So as far as the professional profiles, have everything consistent, have the same picture, have the same contact information. There are best practices, is what Julie is trying to say with regards to how to maximize your profiles and have each of the profiles interconnect with each other. Generally speaking, you want to have an Instagram, Facebook business page. Your only website that you really need is going to be a Facebook business page for the most part. And things like that. In other words, we are never going to be proponents of you guys spending a lot of money on all this stuff. Do the stuffs for free so that when you find out who your competitors are and then drop their names into Google and then find out what's searchable first. And you're going to see it's going to be a Google business page. You're going to see it's going to be a Facebook profile, those types of things. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have your name, your contacts, and then be very specific with regards to SEO as far as what description you have of the markets you serve and be very specific.
And consistent.
Right. The way you win is if you are very, when Julie and I were selling in the latter stages of our real estate career, we're selling a New Albany Country Club. So we would have written a very specific description of where we sell real estate as far as being New Albany Country Club, because you have to tell, the algorithms, basically the AI, you have to let it know what your page is all about. And then what you do is you can reinforce all those profile pages by feeding those profile pages through. There's a whole bunch of apps where you put up one post and it automatically posts on all those different platforms for you, and always reinforcing the person you are as a real estate professional. That's really, at the end of the day, the only way to really build a sustainable, searchable result online, unless you're going to spend a ridiculous amount of time and money and take a huge risk, frankly, on whether or not you're ever going to be able to have more search traffic. I think the search game is lost a long time ago for most individual agents. And if you don't believe me, just go to your marketplace and put in, Peoria, Illinois or whatever and find out what comes up. It's going to be the big search portals. It's going to be people paying for ads. That's the reason Julie said don't waste a lot of money on search engine optimization because you can never win that game. Julie, point number 10.
Point number 10. Now, this is one that has been life-changing for many agents, okay? And that is a simple point. Answer your phone. One of the top complaints from clients and prospects is a simple lack of communication. Always answer your phone. If for some reason they go to voicemail, return the calls promptly. Furiously fast lead follow-up. Even if it's just to let somebody know you're going to get back to them later, you're walking into an appointment. What's the place I can reach you an hour from now when I walk out of my appointment? Answering your phone is critical. Why? Because somebody is calling especially your mobile phone, which is on your real estate flyers, your ads, your signs. They want their information. They want their questions answered right now.
Well, same goes with 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com. If you haven't checked into that yet, that should be one of your homework assignments from today's show. Just go to 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com and you're going to be able to, frankly, learn about one of the greatest lead generators ever that costs like $35 a month. So 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com. Now, here's some advanced coaching for you on this point. On your voicemail, you want to put up some guardrails, put up some expectations. You've reached Tim Harris's cell phone. Sorry, I wasn't able to answer the call. Please leave if you're calling after normal working hours or on the nights and the weekends, please leave the number where I can reach you during the day, during normal working hours. Otherwise, I'll call you back within usually 5 minutes or less. So set up some boundaries so people know what to expect.
And stick to them.
If first time you don't stick to them, people are just going to assume you're not going to stick to them, and then they're going to expect you to call them back 24/7. The reason that a lot of agents lose any sense of time and they lose their days and their weeks and their months because they're always working is because they don't set up those boundaries. Remember, professionals have boundaries. So if you're not setting up boundaries, you're actually devaluing yourself in the eyes of consumers.
That's right. Okay, point number 11. This is huge. We talk about it all the time. Create, and most importantly, use a proven pre-listing package. Your pre-listing package is your silent salesperson. Send it before your presentation. That's why it's called a pre-listing package to handle common objections and help secure the listing. Learn to present your unique selling propositions, we call those USPs, with confidence. Remember that success comes when preparation, that's your pre-listing package, meets opportunity, that's your proactive lead generation.
That's right. And a pre-listing package is included in Premier Coaching. You know what to do. Just go to premiercoaching.com or text the word Premier,
Premier,
to 47372, and you can join Premier Coaching for free. Do that right away. And again, the pre-listing package is, in essence, your silent salesperson. You deliver it to the seller prior to meeting with the seller, and that's going to answer most of their questions. That way, when you get to the seller's house, it's just a function of basically wrapping up the paperwork and shaking hands.
Exactly. All right, number 12, focus primarily on becoming a listing agent. Why? Because listings generate leads. Buyers themselves may never even purchase, but sellers oftentimes have to sell. So master the mental skill of working with listings, not just the physical labor of working with buyers, but now that's changed too. You're having to up your buyer game, and we can talk about that if you want to. But remember, most agents only list repeat or referral business. To truly excel and control your business, you've got to learn to list with people who don't yet know you.
Well, okay, so you have to learn how to be competitive. Why should your primary focus be working with sellers? It's very simple, and I'm going to have you explain it. Okay? Well, I'll start out by asking questions. All right, so can you give me, Julie Harris, an example of a buyer that has to buy?
Absolutely not.
Right. And that's the bottom line.
People will argue, right? We can do the normal.
The reload, the
1031 exchange.
Right. No, those people could always rent
or pay the taxes.
Or pay the taxes, right? So the reality of it is there's no such thing as a buyer that has to transact. They don't exist.
Also, they have to qualify to do it even if they do want to transact.
And your best buyer, obviously there's a lot of great buyers out there, but your best buyer is a strong want to, never have to. There's nothing forcing them to buy ever. More true than you can possibly imagine, the more expensive your real estate becomes. When you start selling aspirational real estate where someone already has several homes and things like that, they don't have to buy, and it's very normal for those types of folks to come and go. Yes. So now, Julie, can you give me some examples of a seller that has to sell?
Lots of times. Okay, so I've gotten relocated. I'm moving to Atlanta. I live in Columbus. I have to buy. I'm in Atlanta. I have to sell my house in Columbus. Keeping it is not an option. I can no longer make the payment. Keeping it is no longer an option. Haven't seen my upstairs in 3 years. I'm getting older. Maybe I don't have to sell, but I probably have to sell.
It's court
Divorce,
order. It's court order.
death, probate.
Exactly. So there's lots of examples of sellers that have to sell. Literally, they have to sell the house. Keeping the house is not an option.
Or something bad could happen.
Right. And they don't want to rent it. There may be remote or just all these reasons, right? So if you have to choose a pool of clients to work with, you want to choose the people that absolutely have to transact. Because would you rather have 5 great motivated sellers or would you rather have 50 buyers? Any of you say anything other than the sellers, you need to re-listen to this podcast. Because the reality of it is on the motivated sellers, provided you do your job, that's 5 guaranteed paychecks, probably more than that, because that seller is going to become a buyer and buy something from you, because you might double in that listing, because the neighbor down the way is going to list their house with you because they see you're successful having sold, that current seller's house. You guys get it? With a buyer, the buyers can and often do change their minds, lose their motivation, decide to put it off till spring,
Become unqualified.
decide to do an addition on their house. They're going to remodel the kitchen, right? All these things. Not with sellers. Sellers that have to sell are always going to be the lifeblood of your business.
And listings generate leads, right? Buyers don't generate. They might not even buy themselves. There might be 0 transactions there. Listings, especially when you follow our open house system that we teach in Premier Coaching and a whole bunch of other things, listings give you something to work with. Buyers can be a struggle. Even the most qualified, most motivated buyer might get outbid this afternoon after you've shown them 20 houses.
That's right. But guess what? If you're the listing agent on that house that had the 20 offers on it, you're getting a sale.
You still win.
The buyer's agents, 19 of them aren't. You guys get it? And working with listings all in actually takes a hell of a lot less time than working with buyers.
Once you learn how to be good at it. Okay.
Right.
Point number 13, say yes to opportunities. When an opportunity or prospect arises, say yes, it would be my pleasure to help you with that. You can always get help or partner with a more experienced agent if needed. You can go to your Premier Coaching session and get help there. Versatility is key. Versatile agents are the most successful agents and most profitable agents. You're not going to be knowledgeable about every single type of deal that you can do until you've learned to do them.
Now,
you have to say yes.
The more successful you become, the more you can start being picky about the type of business you take. But that might not ever happen in your business. You might not ever be, like I'm thinking of Rob Johnson.
Yeah.
Rob Johnson in Greenwich, Connecticut only works Greenwich, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And furthermore, he prefers waterfront property.
Well, he's earned that right, though.
He has. And so that's what he focuses on. If you are wanting to buy or sell in any of the adjacent communities, he refers you out.
Yeah.
Even if it would only take him 20 minutes to drive there.
That's
he
right.
will refer that opportunity out because he only wants to work. Now, he has become very successful, and he's known for being successful, has lots of listings and lots of opportunities. He's earned the right to be picky. But until you have earned the right to be picky, say yes to everything.
100%. All right. Number 14, do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. There will be days when you lack motivation or confidence. You have to push through those days. Your future self will thank you for doing the work that leads to success and your rewards. But you have to actually do the work. Do what you don't want to do, which is pretty much everything proactive in real estate. When you don't want to do it, which is pretty much all the time, at the highest level, that's where the skill comes in. That's where coaching comes in. That's where saying, yes, I'm going to help you comes in.
Let me ask you some questions. Did you want to get up at 6 a.m. this morning and take Zoe to school?
Definitely not.
Did you want to sit there in the cafeteria and have breakfast with her?
You forgot sitting in traffic and doing all the things on the way, but I did want to sit, and have breakfast with her, but I had to do the things I didn't want to do the thing I wanted to do.
Did you want to have to put gas in your Alfa Romeo this morning?
Definitely not.
Did you want to go to the gym this morning?
Hell no.
Hell no, right?
Not just no.
No, exactly. I mean, how many things today?
But I like the results I get from those things.
Sure. How many other things did you do today that you actually wanted to do? Like would have chosen to do if you didn't have to? Like it's Julie's day off. She can do whatever the hell she wants to do. What would you have actually chosen to do of the things you did do today? Anything yet?
Not yet. I hope to go to the beach and see some fish in a little bit.
But isn't that funny?
I know. But that's what it takes to do the things that you do want to do in life when you want to do them. It does take the earning of it.
Yeah, well, it does. But it's the compounding effect.
It is.
Right. So if you do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do at the highest level over a longer period of time, you get really damn good at what you're doing.
At those things, yeah.
And then guess what? You have built yourself a brand in the community for having actually done the work to earn the right to be seen as being really damn good. It takes time. It takes work. There are no shortcuts. There are no hacks. I hope you younger folks are listening and you start filtering and sorting. And otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to lose 10 years, 15, 20 years. And you're going to remember I told you this, and you're going to wish you would have listened in the first place. That is the biggest regret of anyone you talk to that's Julie and I's age, plus or minus 5 years. They always wish they would have drilled down earlier in their lives and stopped chasing essentially easy button ideas.
Well, that's right. It makes me think of Gina Giampietro in Pittsburgh, PA. She's somebody who, because she generates and she's got her systems worked out and
What's
her
the saying?
spokes, when she generates, she doesn't have to tolerate. So you were using Rob as an example. If you're out of Greenwich, maybe you're going to get referred. That's his thing. Certain price range, waterfront, etc.
So when you generate, you don't have to tolerate. Tolerate what, Julie?
Tolerate overpriced listings, combative sellers, people who aren't that motivated, buyers who may or may not be going to buy. Because she has enough generation, she can be choosy like Rob is.
Tolerate feeling broke, tolerate night
Yeah.
sweats,
Frustration.
tolerate frustration, tolerate not having any money to buy your family Christmas presents, tolerate worrying about how you're going to pay for this, how you're going to pay for that, tolerate feeling disappointed in yourself, tolerate not liking the quality of your life where you live, how you're living, your environment, tolerate. How many of you are just tolerating because you haven't been willing to accept the fact that if you want ever increasing levels of success in your business and personal life, you have to do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. And I've got news for you. It never ends. Now, here's the difference, though.
Yeah.
The more successful, wealthy you become, the less you have to spend time doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. The more you can start spending more time doing what you want to do when you want to do it at whatever the hell level you want with, frankly, whoever you want. But you have to earn the right to get there.
That's right.
And you know, maybe like Julie and I are still drilled down. Why are we still drilled down? Because we don't want to lose our momentum. And that's what happens a lot of times too, is people will have very successful careers and then they'll just, I've had enough. I'll just stop working. Well, what happens is you don't just lose your momentum financially, but you lose it physically, emotionally, spiritually, all those things. So what makes you over time is the doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. And if you stop doing that, you lose not just momentum in one area, but all areas of your life. Does that make sense?
It does. It made me think of back when I was, in music. Some of my best teachers said, "Why do you have to practice every day, even though you hate playing scales? You have to do this and that." It's because when you skip a day of rehearsing, and I'm sure sports is like this as well. They used to say, "You didn't just lose that day; you went back 2 or 3 days because the day of your comeback, which could be only a day from now." You're going to have to redo everything that you just lost because you didn't reinforce it. And real estate is absolutely like that. Those of you who have had too much time in between listing appointments, you know that. You've had calls like this, our coaches have calls, it's something slightly out of your wheelhouse. You haven't done it for a while, so you're freaking out and you have to compete. You have to close the time gap on that by doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it, and being a little bit out of your wheelhouse now and then, doing the previous point, earn while you learn. That's how you get experience.
Along those lines. So I had several people that messaged me that want to be in your personal coaching schedule. We announced it on yesterday's podcast. We also talked about last week.
Yep.
And so I'm getting a really good crop of folks that I'm interviewing to, you to then interview them to be in your schedule. But one of the things I'm hearing continuously are from a lot of guys and gals with teams and brokerages
yes.
that have been burning the candle at both ends and they're not knowing what to do. And they need to learn it. Guess what? It's easier to scale your business up. It's a hell of a harder time scaling it down. Because here's the good news. A lot of times when you scale the business down, you don't have to stop, giving a high level of customer service. There are actually new systems with AI and other things that will deliver your customer a better value. But these are the things you have to learn to adapt to. Your big, unprofitable, heavy, payroll-laden business doesn't have to be that way. But here's, ultimately where all this goes is you have to be willing to open your mind to the fact that some of you, are having to take a half step and you do have to get back into production. And what I'm hearing are from some of you who've been out of production for a long time.
Yes.
You're not going on listing appointments and you've lost your confidence. You don't know that you've lost your confidence, but I, as a coach, can sense it when I'm talking to you. You've lost your mojo. Well, I got great news for you, and Julie's going to tack onto this. If you've been successful in the past at being a listing agent, as an example, you just have to dust off the skills and update your mindset and you can kick ass again.
Yes.
What you're doing is you're hitting a hard reset. You're getting yourself re-engaged in your business and you're going back to work. I listened to a podcast yesterday, Julie. They were talking about Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs had, long story short, he was presenting on a small table like 6 things that Apple was working on. And he said, on this table, like the things that we're focused on at Apple have to fit on this table. And if they don't fit on this table, all of them, iPhone, iPad, watch, computer, if the things we're focused on or the things we're going to work on don't all fit in this table, that means the other things that don't fit, we're not going to be focused on. And then he said, here's the other thing. I only have one A team of developers, and I'm one of the members of the A team, and we can only be good at one thing. And he said, we're only going to focus on the iPad. That was the meeting. We're only going to focus on the iPad. This is it. The iPad is what we're really going to master. You know, and some of you are going to have to go back to having that mindset. You've been too distracted for too long by this idea that you're going to build this the business
expansion teams and stuff like that.
All the rest of it. And those things all have a place in the marketplace. I'm not saying that they don't, but let's go about resetting your business up, rescaling your business so that it's profitable, so that in 2 or 3 years from now, you actually have a lot to show for your work versus just now having a lot of memories and numbers and awards and plaques and adulation from strangers.
Yes. Well, it's interesting. You have identified, and I would agree with you, that's a very specific trend that's happening right now, is right-sizing your team, sorting out who's a writer and who is a rower, right-sizing your lead generation. That's very specific.
We call it the coming to Jesus client. That's what Julie and I call it, right?
And I have to say, because, you know, you have a lot of you guys, you know who I'm talking to right now, listeners. You have your heart and soul in the building of that team that you've got. And you have some, you know, invested, of course, in the lead generation for that team. We understand that. We respect that. But we're also giving you permission to scrutinize, to make business decisions. It's okay to change the size of your team and the mix-up of your team.
You're probably stuck in an echo chamber amongst other people who have also done the same thing the same way, and all of you are experiencing the same pain and frustration, so you've just accepted that that's the nature of it. It doesn't have to be. This is your opportunity again. Sorry if I'm overusing this, but it's exactly what all of you should be thinking about this time of year. Hit hard reset and reset your businesses. Reset your expectations for yourself. Start mentally going back to the idea of thinking big and then acting even bigger. So Julie does have a handful of spots available on her schedule. If you'd like to be considered to be part of Julie's schedule, text me directly at 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206. When you text me, please do give me a brief description of yourself, of your business. I want to know what I'm starting with. And I'll have to tell you, a majority of you are not going to be a good fit. And we're going to suggest, or I'll suggest you guys consider Premier Coaching. But for those of you who know that you're a good fit for Julie, you are in production, you've been successful for a while. There's some outliers that are newer agents that basically we have high level of confidence and will be successful that Julie might consider. But the vast majority of the people in Julie's schedule have been in the business for at least probably 15 years, have a consistent income of at least $500,000 per year. We're talking in the upper 1%. So if you are that, and you're ready to basically, have the challenge of being challenged, text me directly at 512-758-0206 with a brief description of yourself and your business, and then we'll go back and forth, and then I'll set you up with a call with Julie, and then you decide if she's a good fit for you, and she decides if you're a good fit for her.
That's right. So success in real estate is not a mystery. It's about following proven strategies like we've laid out for you in these past 2 podcasts. So to commit to the rules that we've given you, take action every day to start on the path and stay on the path to success. Stop waiting to get started and join either Premier Coaching or me as your private coach to not only survive, but thrive in this competitive market.
Guys, thank you for all the fantastic feedback we've been getting on the podcasts of late. We certainly appreciate it. If you've not yet given us a 5-star review over on iTunes and a comment why you love the podcast, please do so. We really sincerely appreciate it. It helps Julie and I to stay in alignment with our purpose, professional purpose, which is being of service to all of you. And when you tell iTunes in particular that you like the podcast by giving it a 5-star review, it then knows to share the podcast with other like-minded real estate agents who are ready to embrace this real estate industry and the future that's coming as their best opportunity, frankly, to become the best version of themselves as a real estate professional. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.